Welcome to the Introverted Influencer Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Van Slyke. My soul's mission on this planet is to help fellow introverts grow their online influence in a state of feminine flow and ease. While battling the woes of depression, anxiety, and even mom guilt, I've somehow managed to build a six-figure blog without the use of social media and without sacrificing my mental health. If I can do it, you can fucking too. Hello, my love. Welcome back to episode 47 of the Introverted Influencer Podcast. I'm so incredibly thankful that you have decided to tune in for another episode. And if you are new to this podcast, I just want to give you a big old virtual hug and tell you welcome. I hope you find it helpful. So we are, as this episode goes live, it will be February, but we are at that phase energetically in the year where we went into the new year with all of this fire, this fight, this resolve to create the life we want, or to show up the way we want to show up in this world. And there's all this drive and excitement over the promises of a new year and showing up in a new way. And then, the reality of January. It's shitty in most places in the United States, weather-wise, overcast, and it feel almost like even more resistance when trying to go after these goals. And so that's how I don't have goals set for the year. As I said a few episodes back, I like to just have intentions for how I would like to show up, how I would like to do things a little differently from the year before. And I was on fire the first, week or so of January. And then I think it's like, okay, I'm in the grind again. I haven't seen the sun. It has been pouring down rain. It's cold. It's yucky. And it starts to feel like resistance, a little more like an uphill sort of battle this time of year. And so I want to address that sort of occurrence, that sort of energy today. And I think I'm going to title this episode Navigating the World in Between Worlds. So I am going to use a term for what this is. And this term was coined by a great thinker and philosopher, Neville Goddard. And you need to check out some of his books. A lot of them are short reads, but it's incredible. This man understood energy and manifestation well before it was ever a trending buzzword. Like, this was back in the day. So I consider Neville Goddard to be like an OG of energetics and manifestation. And he refers to this sort of energy, the world in between worlds, the space in between, as the bridge of incidents. So the bridge of incidents is essentially a sequence of events and circumstances that happen in between you declaring what you want to create and then the actual physical manifestation coming through in your reality, in your experience, in your 5 sensory experience. And I was thinking, just to put this into even more relatable context, I would share a quote by Steve Jobs that explains this in a really beautiful way. Okay, here it goes. This was actually from Steve Jobs' commencement speech. I think it was at Stanford years back. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. So it's really easy to have conviction and motivation and inspiration and just juice when you kind of get off on creating a new reality for yourself in your mind, and you felt what that could feel like. You've experienced it just in your mind, and then you go into making it happen, taking the steps needed to actually bring your desires and your creation into 5 sensory experience. So perhaps that is, we'll just use an example, a personal example. So when I decided that I didn't just want to be an SEO consultant anymore, I had gotten feedback from the outside world that I had a gift of interior design and decorating and staging. I imagined what that could be like. I felt it. I felt the power of it, the exhilaration of it, the alignment of it. And then I decided from there to make that a reality. So what did I do? I created business cards. I created my blog and website as a promotional means for interior design or staging services. I networked with realtors. And I didn't exactly know how my dreams would manifest. I didn't know if that meant specializing in home staging. I didn't know if that meant interior design, like going to actual jobs physically. I didn't know if it meant online consulting through the means of my blog. And I certainly never realized that I could also make a living from interior design just by blogging about it and not actually providing a service, so to speak. But the power in how I went about it was that I left multiple possibilities open of how that goal, that creation could manifest into my 5 sensory experience. So I didn't get fixated on how it could come in. I had the assumption it will happen somehow. And from there, I tried my hand at different ways it could come through. But then there came a lull period of this. Okay, the clients aren't really converting. Is this really going to happen? Not much had happened with the blog yet because blogging is sort of a long game. So I entered, after I had that initial steam and conviction of I'm going to make this happen, there's like a buffer phase I think it takes the universe a while to rearrange. Once you have that conviction and assumption and you actually set out to make it happen, there is a world in between worlds. And this is when it gets really challenging to navigate, especially when you're not seeing the ball moving. In some instances, and I've discussed this, it was many episodes ago, but it was, I don't know, I think it was titled like When Everything Goes to Shit. Sometimes everything can go the opposite of what you're hoping for, and it seems like you're being punished and everything is like blowing up in your face. But this is also a good sign. It's evidence that the energy truly is shifting. And I'm not going to go so much into when that happens. You can go back to that episode. Like I said, I think it's When Everything Goes to Shit. But basically what's happening here, when the opposite of what you want to happen starts to go down, after you've made like major life changes and you have the assumption it will happen, and you are on that bridge of incidents and everything starts to go wrong. That is a lot of your unresolved fears or disempowering subconscious beliefs surfacing so that you can work through them. So that's maybe, well, it's all tied to fear, but perhaps you were disappointed in the past. Perhaps you didn't get what you set to go after in the past. This is your chance to work with your subconscious. I like to do that through hypnosis, guided hypnosis meditations, and to somehow form a more empowering belief behind what happened in the past when you were disappointed and what's creating these new patterns of fear to arise. And a lot of the times I was able to look back in doing these hypnosis meditations and discover that it didn't work out because that wasn't authentically aligned for me. And I can actually ultimately, knowing where I'm at now, be happy it didn't work out because I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's all about the bridge of incidents. And it's ultimately all of this navigating the space in between where you are and where you want to be is really assuming, and this is what Neville says, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But it's not so much to just assume the feeling, because that would kind of be spiritual bypass. We do have to address those fears that come up and the doubts. We have to work with our subconscious and create new, more empowering beliefs around it. So I think that's maybe some of the missing piece of it all. And then it's just having faith in the process. And I remember going back to my blogging journey. So there was all this excitement when I set out to actually follow my passion. But it took well into a year before I actually saw any movement, any physical evidence in the outside world that I was doing the right thing. So what does that come down to? It comes down to your assumption that somehow, some way, it will work. Trusting the process, trusting the bridge of incidents, trusting that while you may not understand why everything is unfolding in the way it is, you will one day be able to look back and connect the dots, as Steve Jobs said. And it's also about remembering that you are a powerful creator. And when things do happen that don't reflect what you wish to be created in your 3D experience, you can form a more empowering interpretation of what is happening. Change the way in which you are relating to whatever is unfolding on your unique bridge of incidents. So see how incredibly important it is, the mind versus strategy. Because if it were all about my strategy and the ball wasn't moving over that year and a half where it seemed like nothing was happening, if I didn't have the faith and the assumption and trust the bridge of incidents, I would have given a negative interpretation to, oh, nothing is happening. I guess this isn't meant for me. I guess I'm not that talented. I guess I'm not one of those people that will be able to do something fulfilling and make money doing what lights me up. And so I could have assigned a negative meaning and interpretation, and then lost focus, lost drive, and essentially lost my way. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to focus so much on finding the physical evidence and proof that we've lost touch with how truly powerful our mind is, our thoughts, because that is where the action starts. The assumption is even going to determine if your strategy, your analytical sort of strategy, really pans out. Because if you go in with the assumption, I don't know if this strategy is going to pan out, but I guess I'll give it a shot. Well, you're going to give it a half-ass shot, and you're not going to stick with it long enough to know if it works, right? So I know I had originally, almost a year ago now, set out to give you a little more strategy with this podcast that I created. But what I have found and what I am finding every single day to be more true is our assumption and our faith. And maintaining our power and not allowing external circumstances to dictate what we get to do, be, or have. Don't get led astray by looking for evidence prematurely. Keep your head down. Do what you are called to do and assume that everything is leading you to where you want to go. And it will all tie together when you have successfully navigated that bridge of incidents and you are no longer in the world between worlds, but it's just a part of the process. So for anyone that's just starting to fizzle out because we're a month into the new year and maybe you've been going at it and you're not seeing results, no matter what it is you're trying to achieve or create, just remember, it's all how you are interpreting your physical unfolding of this process. And that is why the energetic work and the mindset work trumps any sort of strategy, because there are infinite ways. We live in an infinite existence. And actually, I can't wrap my head around this at all, but according to scientists, our universe is expanding at an accelerated rate. Like, it's infinite and then it's expanding on top of that. So there are so many ways you can create what you want. There are multiple ways. open yourself up to the different ways, and you'll be so delighted with how it all turns out. Let's go back to the example of my bridge of incidents in creating a living doing what I love. So I had the multiple ways of which it could come in, and I was trying not to cling on too heavily to one avenue. And eventually, the blog started to take off. This took 2 years. And then within 6 months after the 2 years, I was finally able to create enough income to quit my SEO marketing job. And it still hadn't fully replaced that income. But just that act of faith alone, within the next few months, while I was scared, I remained faithful. And within the next few months, my income from my blog doubled. But see, I didn't cling on to how it was supposed to come. I could have never, ever imagined when I started my journey that it would have come through the blog. And while I could have maybe even said, oh, well, I was tempted to say in the beginning, at the very beginning of my journey, man, I wish I would have gone to school. Instead of going to school for marketing, why didn't I go to school for interior design? Man, what a waste of time. That was a waste of money, a waste of time. But no, because if it wouldn't have been for my experience, which don't get me wrong, the marketing degree, it was kind of a joke. Most of what I learned was out in the field. But if it wouldn't have been for all the things that I learned actually having to work in a marketing job, I would have never known how to develop my blog and my website, to design my website, to promote it and learn search engine optimization, to get traffic, to ultimately get income to my blog. So you see the bridge of incidents. I can now connect the dots looking back, but I couldn't have ever in the beginning. So just keep the faith that whatever is unfolding right now on your journey is contributing to the ultimate vision, okay? Don't let yourself fizzle out so soon just because you're not seeing the ball rolling yet, or even worse, everything is going to hell. It will all come together. Stay focused. Stay in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and work through those icky subconscious beliefs or past experiences that may be presenting fear or doubt in your reality right now. And just know, I am here cheering you on. I am rooting for you. You've got this, and I love you. And with all that, I think I've said what I need to say on this subject, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for stopping by this week. I make no money from this show. Actually, it costs me money to produce and host. So the best way you can show your support for this passion project of mine is by leaving the show a 5-star written review on Apple. Also, if you would like to contribute monetarily to the show, you can leave a tip in my digital tip jar, which I have the link in the show notes. You can always share it with a friend who you think could benefit from the message, or even better, you can take a screenshot of this episode, upload it to your Insta stories, and tag me in it at Designing Vibes. Sending you my love.